Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Library. Tonight we are stepping back through time, wandering into an ancient world where colossal creatures roamed beneath skies unmarked by human eyes. A world of dense forests, shallow seas, and vast plains where life took forms both gentle and fierce. This is the realm of dinosaurs. Those magnificent beings who ruled Earth for over 150 million years, leaving behind only their bones, their footprints, and the echoes of their existence preserved in stone. Perhaps you've had a long day. Perhaps your mind is restless, turning over thoughts that won't settle. That's all right. You're here now, and tonight's journey asks nothing of you but to rest, to breathe slowly, to let the weight of the day slip away as we wander together through stories carved in ancient rock, through mysteries uncovered grain by grain from the earth. If these quiet explorations bring you peace, consider liking or subscribing. It helps others find their way here too. One sleepy soul at a time. But for now, just settle in. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow. And let's begin. The word dinosaur means terrible lizard, but they were not lizards at all. In 1842, an English naturalist named Sir Richard Owen looked at fossilized bones that had been puzzling scientists for decades and recognized something remarkable. These weren't the remains of giant humans or mythical beasts. They were something entirely different, a distinct group of reptiles, unlike anything alive today. He combined two Greek words, Deinos, meaning fearfully great or terrible, and sauros, meaning lizard. And so, the term dinosaur was born. But here's the gentle irony. Despite the name, dinosaurs were not lizards. They belonged to their own branch of the reptilian family tree, more closely related to modern birds and crocodiles than to the lizards that bask on sunny rocks today. The name stuck anyway, even though it was never quite accurate. Sometimes the first name given becomes the lasting one, even if it carries a small mistake within it. Dinosaurs first appeared around 230 to 245 million years ago. This was during a period called the Triassic, a time when the Earth looked nothing like it does today. All the continents were fused together into one massive landmass called Pangaea. There were no separate oceans between Africa and South America, no Atlantic dividing Europe from North America. It was all one world, hot and dry in many places, with vast deserts stretching across the interior. And somewhere in that ancient landscape, the first dinosaurs emerged. They were small at first, no bigger than a dog or a chicken, quick and nimble creatures that scurried through the underbrush. They were not the dominant animals of their time. That honor belonged to other reptiles, massive crocodile-like creatures and early relatives of mammals. But the dinosaurs were patient. They adapted. They evolved. And over millions of years, they would grow, diversify, and eventually come to rule the land in ways no other group of animals ever has. Dinosaurs lived on Earth for over 150 million years. Let that settle for a moment. 150 million years. Humans have walked this planet for only about 300,000 years. Our recorded history spans a mere 5,000 years or so. In comparison, the reign of the dinosaurs was an eternity. They thrived through three great geological periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. Each of these periods lasted tens of millions of years, and during that time, the world changed dramatically. Continents shifted, climates warmed and cooled, seas rose and fell. And through it all, dinosaurs adapted and flourished. Some grew enormous, towering over the forests. Others remained small and swift. Some developed armor and spikes. Others grew feathers. They filled every available niche, from the wetlands to the deserts, from the coastlines to the highlands. For 150 million years, they were the undisputed masters of the land. And then, in what seemed like an instant in geological time, they were gone. Not all dinosaurs lived at the same time. This is something that surprises many people. We often imagine all dinosaurs existing together, a prehistoric zoo where Stegosaurus and Tyrannosaurus rex might have crossed paths. But the truth is more nuanced. Stegosaurus lived during the late Jurassic period, about 150 million years ago. It roamed ancient landscapes long before the first Tyrannosaurus rex ever walked the earth. By the time T-Rex appeared, around 72 to 66 million years ago in the late Cretaceous, Stegosaurus had already been extinct for nearly 80 million years. To put that in perspective, more time separates Stegosaurus from T-Rex than separates T-Rex from us. The age of dinosaurs was not a single snapshot frozen in time, but a vast, rolling story that unfolded across millions of years, with countless species rising, flourishing, and fading away, making room for new forms to take their place. Dinosaur fossils have been found on every continent, including Antarctica. This might seem strange at first, imagining the frozen wastes of Antarctica hosting giant reptiles. But during much of the age of dinosaurs, Antarctica was not the icy desert it is today. It sat farther north, closer to the equator, and enjoyed a much warmer climate. Forests grew there, rivers flowed, and dinosaurs lived and died on its ancient soil. Over millions of years, tectonic forces pushed the continent southward, and the climate grew colder until ice buried the land. But beneath that ice, fossils remain, preserved in stone, waiting. Paleontologists have discovered dinosaur bones, teeth, and even footprints in Antarctica, proof that these creatures truly did inhabit every corner of the ancient world. No landmass was beyond their reach. They walked where glaciers now crawl, under skies that once held warmth and rain instead of endless snow. Birds are dinosaurs. This is not metaphor or poetic. License. It is scientific fact. Modern birds are the direct descendants of a group of small, feathered theropod dinosaurs that survived the mass disappearance event 66 million years ago. When the asteroid struck and the world changed, most dinosaur lineages vanished. But one small branch persisted. These were the avian dinosaurs, creatures already equipped with feathers, hollow bones, and the beginnings of flight. They were small enough to survive on limited resources, adaptable enough to weather the chaos that followed. Over millions of years, they evolved into the incredible diversity of birds we see today, from hummingbirds to eagles, from penguins to ostriches. So when you see a robin hopping across your lawn or hear a crow calling from a tree, you are watching a dinosaur. They are the living continuation of a lineage that stretches back more than 150 million years. In a very real sense, dinosaurs never truly went away. They simply changed their form and learned to fly. There are roughly 700 known species of extinct dinosaurs. Paleontologists have identified and named about 700 distinct species of non-avian dinosaurs based on fossil evidence. But this number is only a fraction of the true diversity that once existed. Most animals that die do not become fossils. The conditions must be just right. The body must be buried quickly, usually in water or sediment, and then remain undisturbed for millions of years, while minerals slowly replace the original bone. Given these challenges, scientists estimate that we have discovered only about 10 to 25% of the dinosaur species that actually lived. There may have been thousands more, creatures that left no trace, whose bones eroded away or were destroyed before they could be preserved. Every year, new species are described, new fossils unearthed from remote deserts and mountainsides. The catalogue of known dinosaurs continues to grow, but it will always remain incomplete. A partial glimpse into a world far richer and more varied than we can fully reconstruct. The smallest fully grown dinosaur was about the size of a chicken. While we often think of dinosaurs as giants, not all of them were large. Some were tiny, delicate creatures, no bigger than the birds we see in our backyards today. One of the smallest known dinosaurs is a little plant eater called Lesothosaurus, which stood only about the height of a chicken and weighed just a few pounds. It had long legs built for speed and agility, perfect for darting through undergrowth and evading predators. There were even smaller dinosaurs, creatures like Microraptor, which was about the size of a crow. These miniature dinosaurs remind us that size is not what defined this group. What made them dinosaurs was their unique skeletal structure, the way their hips were configured, the structure of their skulls and limbs. Some were titans, others were sprites. Both were equally dinosaurian, equally part of the great story. The largest dinosaur may have been Argentinosaurus. Measuring size in extinct animals is tricky because we rarely find complete skeletons. But based on the massive bones that have been discovered, Argentinosaurus is often considered one of the largest land animals that ever lived. This giant herbivore lived during the Cretaceous period in what is now Argentina. Paleontologists estimate it measured between 37 and 40 meters in length. That's about as long as 4 fire engines parked end to end. Its weight is harder to pin down, but estimates range up to 100 metric tons, as heavy as 17 African elephants. Imagine the ground trembling beneath its footsteps, each stride covering meters of ground, its long neck stretching high into the canopy to browse leaves no other creature could reach. It moved slowly, deliberately, a living mountain navigating ancient forests. To stand beside such a creature would have been to feel the sheer scale of life itself, a reminder that evolution can push the boundaries of size far beyond what seems possible. Dinosaurs were not slow, clumsy reptiles. For much of the 20th century, dinosaurs were imagined as sluggish, cold-blooded creatures, dragging their tails behind them like oversized lizards. But decades of research have overturned that image. Fossil trackways show that many dinosaurs walked with their tails held high off the ground, balanced elegantly as they moved. Studies of bone structure, growth rates, and even fossilized soft tissues suggest that many dinosaurs had metabolisms more similar to birds and mammals than to modern reptiles. Some were almost certainly warm-blooded, or at least capable of maintaining elevated body temperatures. They were active, energetic animals. The fastest dinosaurs, small theropods like the ostrich mimic ornithomimids, could probably run at speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour. They were built for quick bursts of speed, for hunting or escaping, their legs long and muscular, their bodies light and streamlined. Dinosaurs were not the lumbering monsters of old movies. They were agile, dynamic, and in many cases, remarkably fast. Many dinosaurs had feathers. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of what dinosaurs looked like. Starting in the 1990s, paleontologists working in China began uncovering exquisitely preserved fossils that showed clear evidence of feathers. Not just on birds, but on non-avian dinosaurs, creatures that never flew. These feathers came in many forms. Some were simple filaments, like fuzzy down. Others were complex, with branching structures just like modern bird feathers. Feathers did not evolve for flight. They likely first appeared for insulation, helping small dinosaurs retain body heat. They may also have been used for display, bright colors and patterns that helped attract mates or establish territory. Over time, some lineages refined their feathers for a new purpose, flight. But long before any dinosaur took to the air, feathers were already part of their world. If you could walk through a Cretaceous forest, you might see as much color and texture among the dinosaurs as you would among the birds today. Reds, blacks, browns, possibly even iridescent sheens catching the sunlight. Scientists can determine the colors of some dinosaur feathers. For a long time, this seemed impossible. How could anyone know what color a creature was when all that remained were bones and fossilized impressions? But then, researchers made a remarkable discovery. Within some fossilized feathers, they found tiny structures called melanosomes, microscopic packets of pigment that give feathers their color. These melanosomes come in different shapes, and each shape corresponds to a specific color. Long, sausage-shaped melanosomes produce black or dark gray. Spherical ones produce reddish-brown or rusty colors. By examining the shape, density, and arrangement of melanosomes in fossilized feathers, scientists can reconstruct the colors of extinct animals with surprising accuracy. For example, a small dinosaur called Sinosauropteryx, which lived about 125 million years ago, had a striped tail with alternating bands of reddish-brown and lighter tones. Another dinosaur, Anchiornis, was determined to have been mostly black and white, with a crest of reddish feathers on its head. These are not guesses. They are based on direct physical evidence. For the first time in history, we can see ancient creatures not just in shades of grey stone, but in color. Some dinosaurs had iridescent feathers like modern birds. Iridescence is that shimmering, color-shifting quality you see on the feathers of crows, hummingbirds, and peacocks. It's created by the microscopic structure of the feather itself, the way layers of melanosomes are stacked to bend and reflect light. And remarkably, paleontologists have found evidence of this same structure in fossilized dinosaur feathers. One example is Microraptor, a small, four-winged dinosaur from the early Cretaceous. Analysis of its fossilized feathers revealed tightly packed melanosomes arranged in layers, a structure identical to that seen in iridescent bird feathers today. This means Microraptor's plumage was likely glossy black with a rainbow sheen, shifting colors as it moved through dappled forest light. Imagine such a creature, no bigger than a crow, gliding between trees with feathers that shimmered blue, green, and purple in the sun. Iridescence may have been used for communication or display, a way to signal to others of its kind or to intimidate rivals. The ancient world was not drab. It was vibrant, full of light and color. Dinosaurs laid eggs. This has been known for over a century, ever since the first dinosaur eggs were discovered in Mongolia in the 1920s. Dinosaurs, like modern birds and reptiles, reproduced by laying eggs. These eggs came in a variety of shapes and sizes. Some were spherical, others elongated like a rugby ball. The largest dinosaur eggs discovered so far are about 30 centimeters long, roughly
size of a basketball.
The smallest are only 3 centimeters, no bigger than a large marble. Fossilized eggs have been found in nests, arranged in careful patterns, sometimes in clutches of a dozen or more. The arrangement of these nests tells us something about dinosaur behavior. Circular nests with eggs packed tightly together suggest that parents may have incubated them, sitting on the nest to keep the eggs warm. Linear arrangements, where eggs are laid in rows, might indicate that the eggs were buried and left to incubate in the warmth of the sun or decaying vegetation. These eggs, though turned to stone, are windows into the reproductive lives of creatures long gone. Some dinosaurs cared for their young. For a long time, it was assumed that dinosaurs, like most reptiles, simply laid their eggs and walked away, leaving the hatchlings to fend for themselves. But fossil evidence has challenged that assumption. In Montana, paleontologist Jack Horner discovered nesting sites of a dinosaur called Maiasaura, which means good mother lizard. These sites contained not just eggs, but also the bones of juveniles, young dinosaurs that had remained in or near the nest well after hatching. The presence of worn-down teeth in these juveniles suggested they had been eating and growing in the nest, which means they must have been fed and cared for by adults. The nests were arranged in colonies, close together, but spaced just far enough apart that adults could move between them without stepping on neighboring nests. This suggests a level of social organization and parental investment that was once thought impossible for dinosaurs. They were not cold, unfeeling reptiles. They were attentive parents, protecting and feeding their young until they were strong enough to survive on their own. Dinosaurs may have lived in social groups or herds. Fossil evidence suggests that many dinosaur species were social animals, living and traveling in groups. Trackways, long stretches of fossilized footprints, show dozens or even hundreds of individuals moving together in the same direction, all roughly the same size, as if they were part of a migrating herd. Bone beds, sites where the remains of many individuals from the same species are found together, also suggest group living. These are not random accumulations, but mass mortality events, moments when a herd was caught in a flood, trapped in a drought, or overwhelmed by some other disaster. Dying together, they were buried together, and their bones remained side by side through millions of years. Some of the earliest evidence of herd behavior dates back to around 193 million years ago, discovered in fossils of a dinosaur called Musaurus from Patagonia. At this site, paleontologists found eggs, juveniles, and adults all preserved in distinct groups, suggesting that young dinosaurs stayed together in schools while adults foraged and protected the colony. Herding may have offered protection from predators, improved foraging efficiency, and strengthened social bonds. It is one of the ways dinosaurs thrived for so long. Some dinosaurs returned to the same nesting sites year after year. Just as many modern birds and sea turtles return to specific locations to breed, some dinosaurs exhibited a behavior called site fidelity. In Montana, at a location now called Egg Mountain, paleontologists found layers upon layers of nests from different years, all belonging to the same species. The nests were stacked vertically in the rock, one generation atop another, suggesting that these dinosaurs returned to the same spot season after season to lay their eggs. Why they chose this particular place is unclear. Perhaps it offered protection, a safe upland area away from flooding rivers. Perhaps the soil had the right temperature or moisture for incubation. Or perhaps, like modern animals, they simply followed instinct, returning to the place where they themselves had hatched. Whatever the reason, this behavior shows a level of consistency and memory that we don't usually associate with reptiles. These were not mindless creatures acting on pure reflex. They made choices. They remembered places. They returned. The largest dinosaurs had to eat constantly to survive. A creature like Argentinosaurus, weighing as much as 100 tons, faced an almost unimaginable challenge. It had to consume enough food every day to fuel a body of that size. Estimates suggest that the largest sauropods needed to eat several hundred kilograms of plant matter daily just to maintain their weight. That's an enormous amount of food, and it required a feeding strategy that worked efficiently. These giants had long necks that allowed them to reach high into the trees and sweep across wide areas without moving their massive bodies. Their teeth were not built for chewing. Instead, they worked like rakes, stripping leaves and branches, which were then swallowed whole. Inside their stomachs, gastroliths, smooth stones they had swallowed, helped grind up the plant material. Some scientists believe these dinosaurs may have had digestive systems similar to modern cows, with specialized chambers where bacteria broke down tough cellulose. They spent most of their waking hours eating, moving slowly from tree to tree, forest to forest, endlessly consuming to sustain their colossal forms. Some dinosaurs swallowed stones to help digest their food. These stones, called gastroliths, have been found in the rib cages of fossilized dinosaurs, smooth and polished from tumbling around in the stomach. Herbivorous dinosaurs, especially sauropods, lacked the grinding teeth necessary to break down tough plant fibers. Instead, they relied on these stones to do the work for them. The stones would roll and churn inside a muscular stomach chamber, mechanically breaking down leaves, twigs, and branches into smaller, more digestible pieces. Over time, the stones would become smooth and rounded from constant use. Eventually, they might be regurgitated or passed, and the dinosaur would swallow new, rough stones to replace them. Modern birds, especially those that eat seeds or tough vegetation, use a similar strategy. Inside their gizzards, small stones help grind food. It's a simple but effective solution to a digestive challenge, a quiet partnership between animal and mineral that has persisted for hundreds of millions of years. Stegosaurus had a brain the size of a walnut. For such a large animal, weighing around 5 tons and stretching about 9 meters long, Stegosaurus had a surprisingly small brain. Its brain was only about 3 centimeters long and weighed around 75 grams, roughly the size of a walnut or a small lime. This led early paleontologists to assume that Stegosaurus was not very intelligent. However, brain size alone is not a perfect measure of intelligence. Even with a small brain, Stegosaurus was successful for millions of years. It had keen senses, the ability to find food, avoid predators, and reproduce effectively. Its nervous system also included a large nerve cluster near its hips, sometimes mistakenly called a second brain, though it was actually just a concentration of nerves that helped coordinate the movements of its hind legs and tail. Small brain or not, Stegosaurus was well adapted to its environment. Intelligence is not always about size. Sometimes it's simply about being good enough to survive. Troodon was one of the most intelligent dinosaurs. While Stegosaurus had one of the smallest brain-to-body ratios, Troodon had one of the largest. This small, agile predator, about 2 meters long, had a brain proportionally similar in size to that of modern birds. Its large eyes suggest it had excellent vision, possibly even stereoscopic vision, which would have given it depth perception, useful for hunting. Its hands had grasping fingers with sharp claws, perfect for catching small prey. Fossil evidence suggests it may have hunted in packs, coordinating with others to bring down larger animals. It lived during the late Cretaceous, about 75 million years ago, in what is now North America. If dinosaurs had not gone inactive, some paleontologists have speculated, lineages like Troodon might have continued evolving toward even greater intelligence. It's a tantalizing thought, one we'll never know the answer to. But Troodon reminds us that dinosaurs were not all dim-witted giants. Some were sharp, quick-thinking hunters, capable of complex behaviors. Tyrannosaurus rex had the strongest bite of any land animal. Tyrannosaurus rex is one of the most famous dinosaurs, and for good reason. It was one of the largest meat-eating dinosaurs, standing about 4 meters tall at the hips and stretching 12 meters from nose to tail. But what truly set T-Rex apart was its bite. Scientists estimate that T-Rex could exert a bite force of over 12,000 pounds per square inch, more powerful than any other known land animal, living or extinct. Its teeth were not delicate blades like those of other predators. They were thick, conical, and built to crush bone. Fossilized bones from prey animals show deep puncture marks that match the size and spacing of T-Rex teeth. Some bones even show signs of having been bitten completely through, something few other predators could accomplish. This immense bite force allowed T-Rex to hunt large prey and to scavenge, cracking open carcasses to reach the nutritious marrow inside bones that other scavengers couldn't access. It was a top predator in every sense, equipped with a bite that could shatter bone and tear flesh with terrifying efficiency. Tyrannosaurus rex had tiny arms, but they were surprisingly strong. One of the most peculiar features of T-Rex is its arms. Compared to the rest of its massive body, they seem comically small, barely reaching past its chest. Each arm was less than a meter long, and for years, people assumed they were useless, vestigial remnants of once larger limbs. But research has shown that these small arms were far from weak. Each arm could lift approximately 180 kilograms, and the muscles and bone structure suggest they were quite powerful for their size. But what did T-Rex use them for? The arms were too short to reach its mouth, so they couldn't have been used for feeding. Some scientists think they may have been used to grip prey during an attack, providing extra stability. Others suggest they helped T-Rex push itself up from a resting position. Still others think they may have been used during mating. The truth is, we don't know for certain. But those small arms were not useless. They were strong, functional, and must have served some purpose, even if that purpose remains a mystery. Some dinosaurs may have been able to swim. Most dinosaurs were terrestrial animals, built for life on land. But fossil evidence suggests that some may have spent time in the water. Spinosaurus, a large theropod from the Cretaceous, had several features that suggest it was semi-aquatic. It had long crocodile-like jaws filled with conical teeth, perfect for catching slippery fish. Its nostrils were positioned high on its skull, allowing it to breathe while mostly submerged. And its bones were dense and heavy, unlike the hollow bones of most theropods, which would have helped it stay underwater rather than bob back up to the surface. Fossil evidence, including fossilized fish scales found near Spinosaurus remains, supports the idea that it spent a significant amount of time hunting in rivers and lakes. Other dinosaurs, especially smaller ones, likely waded into shallow water to cool off, drink, or escape predators. Trackways have been found that show dinosaurs walking along ancient shorelines, their footprints preserved in what was once soft mud. Water was not off-limits to dinosaurs. Some learned to use it to their advantage. Sauropods were the tallest dinosaurs. The sauropods, that group of long-necked, long-tailed herbivores, included the tallest animals ever to walk on land. One of the tallest was Sauroposeidon, which may have stood up to 18.5 meters tall when it stretched its neck upward. That's as tall as a 6-story building. Brachiosaurus, another well-known giant, stood about 13 meters tall. These dinosaurs had front legs that were longer than their back legs, giving them a giraffe-like stance that allowed them to reach even higher into the canopy. Their necks were extraordinarily long, made up of elongated vertebrae, but also lightweight, filled with air pockets that reduced their weight without sacrificing strength. At the top of that long neck was a relatively small head with a simple set of teeth, just enough to strip leaves from branches. They could reach vegetation that no other herbivore could access, giving them an exclusive food source and reducing competition. Standing beneath one would have been awe-inspiring, the shadow of a living tower, a creature built to touch the sky. The fastest dinosaurs could run up to 60 kilometers per hour. Not all dinosaurs were slow, lumbering giants. Some were built for speed. The ornithomimids, often called ostrich dinosaurs because of their resemblance to modern ostriches, were among the fastest. These were medium-sized theropods with long, powerful legs, lightweight bodies, and long tails that acted as counterbalances. Species like Dromaeosaurus mimus and Gallimimus could likely reach speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour, fast enough to outrun most predators of their time. They were omnivores, or herbivores, not hunters, so speed was their primary defense. When threatened, they would sprint across open ground, their legs a blur, their bodies low and streamlined. Fossil trackways show that these dinosaurs had a long stride and could cover ground quickly. They were the sprinters of the Mesozoic, creatures built not for power, but for swiftness and agility. Dinosaurs had a variety of defensive adaptations. Life in the age of dinosaurs was not without danger, especially for herbivores. To survive, many evolved remarkable defenses. Stegosaurus had large bony plates running down its back and a spiked tail called a thagomizer, which it could swing like a club. Ankylosaurus was covered in thick armor, with bony plates embedded in its skin, and a massive tail club that could deliver bone-crushing blows. Triceratops had 3 large horns and a bony frill that protected its neck. Some dinosaurs, like Pachycephalosaurus, had thick, domed skulls that may have been used in head-butting contests. Others relied on sheer size, so large that few predators would dare attack them. Some used camouflage, blending into their surroundings to avoid detection. And some simply ran, fast enough to escape danger. The variety of defenses reflects the variety of threats, a constant evolutionary arms race between predator and prey that shaped the bodies and behaviors of dinosaurs for millions of years. Pachycephalosaurus had a skull up to 25 centimeters thick. This dinosaur is famous for its dome-shaped head, a thick cap of solid bone that crowned its skull. Pachycephalosaurus lived during the late Cretaceous, about 70 to 66 million years ago, and stood roughly the size of a large human. The purpose of this thick skull has been debated for years. The most popular theory is that males used their heads in combat, butting heads with rivals to establish dominance or compete for mates, much like modern bighorn sheep or musk oxen. However, some scientists point out that the dome's rounded shape would have made it difficult for 2 skulls to collide squarely without slipping off to the side, which could cause neck injuries. An alternative theory is that the dome was used for flank butting, striking opponents in the side rather than head-on. It may also have been simply for display, a visual signal of health and strength. Whatever its purpose, the dome was real, a solid mass of bone that turned Pachycephalosaurus into one of the most distinctive dinosaurs of its time. Ankylosaurus had a tail club that could break bones. Ankylosaurus was one of the most heavily armored dinosaurs. Its back was covered in thick, bony plates called osteoderms, which were fused to its skin and provided protection from even the most powerful bites. But its most impressive weapon was its tail. At the end of a long, flexible tail was a massive bony club, formed from fused vertebrae and covered in hard plates. This club could weigh over 30 kilograms, and when swung with the full force of the animal's muscular tail, it could deliver devastating blows. Studies suggest that a direct hit from an Ankylosaurus tail club could easily break the bones of a predator. Fossil evidence includes healed fractures in the tailbones of some specimens, suggesting they were used in combat, perhaps against each other or against predators. Imagine a predator approaching this low-slung, tank-like creature, only to be met with a bone-shattering swing. Ankylosaurus was built to survive, and its tail club ensured that attacking it came at a high cost. Triceratops had one of the largest skulls of any land animal. Triceratops, one of the most recognizable dinosaurs, lived during the very end of the Cretaceous period. Its name means three-horned face, and it's easy to see why. It had two large horns above its eyes and a smaller horn on its nose. But beyond the horns, what truly stands out is the size of its skull. Some Triceratops skulls measure over 2.5 meters long, making them among the largest skulls of any land animal ever. Much of this size came from a massive bony frill that extended backward from the skull, covering the neck and shoulders. This frill may have served multiple purposes. It could have protected the neck from predators, provided attachment points for powerful jaw muscles, or been used for display, helping individuals recognize each other or intimidate rivals. Some frills show signs of healed injuries, suggesting they were used in combat. Triceratops was a robust, powerful herbivore, and its enormous skull was both shield and signal, a structure built to protect and communicate. Velociraptor was much smaller than depicted in movies. Thanks to popular films, Velociraptor has become one of the most famous dinosaurs. But the movie version is quite different from the real animal. In reality, Velociraptor was about the size of a large turkey, standing roughly half a meter tall at the hip and measuring about 2 meters long, including its tail. It weighed around 15 to 20 kilograms. It was covered in feathers, not scaly skin, and likely looked more like a bird of prey than a reptile. Its most distinctive feature was a large curved claw on each foot, which it likely used to pin down prey, while delivering bites with its sharp teeth. Velociraptor was a clever, agile hunter, but it was not the human-sized terror depicted in movies. The creature shown on screen was actually based more closely on a related dinosaur called Deinonychus, which was larger and more robust. Still, the real Velociraptor was formidable in its own right, a small but effective predator of the late Cretaceous. Some dinosaurs had elaborate head crests and ornaments. Many dinosaurs evolved striking visual features, structures that served no obvious purpose in survival, but seem to have been important for communication or display. Parasaurolophus, a duck-billed dinosaur, had a long, curved crest that extended backward from its skull. This crest was hollow, with tubes running through it that connected to the nasal passages. By blowing air through the crest, Parasaurolophus could produce deep, resonant calls, possibly used to communicate over long distances or attract mates. Other dinosaurs, like Corythosaurus and Lambeosaurus, had differently shaped crests, each producing its own unique sound. These crests may also have been used for visual recognition, helping individuals identify members of their own species. Similarly, ceratopsians like Styracosaurus had frills adorned with long spikes, and Pachyrhinosaurus had thick, roughened bosses on its skull. These features were likely shaped by sexual selection, evolving not because they helped the animal survive, but because they made it more attractive or intimidating to others. In a world without language, visual signals and sounds were everything. Dinosaurs did not drag their tails on the ground. For many years, artistic depictions showed dinosaurs with their tails dragging behind them, leaving deep grooves in the mud. But fossil trackways, ancient footprints preserved in stone, show no evidence of tail drag marks. This tells us that dinosaurs held their tails off the ground, using them for balance. The tail acted as a counterweight to the head and body, especially in bipedal dinosaurs like T-Rex and Velociraptor. Holding the tail horizontal allowed these animals to move efficiently, maintaining balance while running or walking. In quadrupedal dinosaurs, the tail still played a role, helping with stability and, in some cases, serving as a weapon. The image of a dinosaur plodding along, with its tail scraping the earth, is outdated, a relic of old ideas. Modern reconstructions show them as dynamic, balanced animals, their tails held high, their movements graceful and purposeful. Fossilized dinosaur skin has been found. Skin, being soft tissue, rarely survives the fossilization process. But under the right conditions, impressions of skin can be preserved in the rock surrounding a fossil. These impressions show that dinosaur skin was varied. Some species had smooth, pebbly skin, covered in small, rounded scales. Others had larger, more pronounced scales, or even bony plates embedded in the skin. Some fossilized skin impressions show patterns that suggest camouflage, with lighter and darker areas that may have helped the animal blend into its environment. In rare cases, patches of actual fossilized skin have been found, mineralized and preserved in stunning detail. These finds are precious because they give us a glimpse of the dinosaur's outer appearance, the texture and pattern of its body, details that bones alone can never reveal. Every new discovery adds color and texture to our mental image of these creatures, making them feel more real, more tangible. Some dinosaurs lived in polar regions. During the age of dinosaurs, the poles were not as cold as they are today, but they were still challenging environments, with long, dark winters and extended periods without sunlight. Despite this, dinosaurs lived there. Fossils have been found in northern Alaska and in southern Australia, regions that were within the polar circles during the Mesozoic. These dinosaurs would have experienced months of twilight or darkness, followed by summers with near-constant daylight. How they survived is a subject of ongoing research. Some may have migrated, moving toward the equator during the winter and returning in summer. Others may have been year-round residents, adapted to the cold. The discovery of small feathered dinosaurs in these regions suggests that insulation helped them retain heat. They may have been warm-blooded, capable of maintaining their body temperature even when the sun disappeared. Life found a way, even in the cold and dark. Some dinosaurs had air sacs in their bones. Modern birds have a unique respiratory system, one that includes air sacs connected to their lungs and even extending into their bones. This system allows for more efficient breathing, a crucial adaptation for flight. And it turns out that dinosaurs had this system too, long before the first bird took to the air. Fossil evidence shows that many theropods, the group that includes T-Rex and Velociraptor, had hollow bones with openings that connected to air sacs. These sacs reduced the weight of the skeleton without sacrificing strength, and they likely improved respiratory efficiency. This suggests that these dinosaurs had high metabolic rates, consistent with an active, possibly warm-blooded lifestyle. The presence of air sacs is one of many features that link dinosaurs to birds, supporting the idea that birds are not just descendants of dinosaurs, but are in fact dinosaurs themselves. Dinosaurs grew rapidly. Studies of dinosaur bone structure reveal patterns of growth similar to those seen in modern animals. By examining thin slices of fossil bone under a microscope, paleontologists can see growth rings, much like the rings in a tree. These rings show periods of rapid growth, alternating with slower growth, reflecting seasonal changes or variations in food availability. Large dinosaurs like T-Rex grew astonishingly fast. A young T-Rex might weigh only a few kilograms at hatching, but within 20 years, it could reach its full adult size of 7 to 9 tons. That's an average growth rate of several hundred kilograms per year during its teenage years. This rapid growth required an enormous amount of food and energy. It also suggests that dinosaurs had high metabolic rates, further evidence that many were warm-blooded. They did not plod through life slowly. They grew quickly, matured relatively fast, and lived actively. The oldest known dinosaur is Saltopus. Saltopus lived around 245 million years ago during the late Triassic, making it one of the earliest known dinosaurs. It was small, only about the size of a cat, weighing less than a kilogram. Its remains have been found only in Scotland, which has led some scientists to speculate that the British Isles may hold important clues to the origin of dinosaurs. Saltopus was a carnivore, with sharp teeth and long legs built for running. It would have hunted insects and small vertebrates, darting through the underbrush of ancient forests. It represents a time when dinosaurs were just beginning to diversify, still small and relatively rare compared to the other reptiles that dominated the landscape. But from humble beginnings like Saltopus, the dinosaurs would rise to become the most successful group of land animals in Earth's history. Dinosaurs went inactive about 66 million years ago. This disappearance was sudden in geological terms, marking the end of the Cretaceous period and the beginning of the Paleogene. It is known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, or KPG boundary for short. The primary cause was the impact of a massive asteroid, roughly 10 kilometers in diameter, which struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The collision released energy equivalent to billions of atomic bombs, triggering massive earthquakes, tsunamis, and wildfires. But the most devastating effect was the dust and debris thrown into the atmosphere, which blocked out the sun for months or even years. Without sunlight, plants could not photosynthesize. Herbivores starved, and the carnivores that depended on them followed. It was a cascade of loss that swept through ecosystems around the world. Not all life perished. Small mammals, some reptiles, and the ancestors of modern birds survived. But the age of the great dinosaurs was over. The asteroid impact left a crater over 180 kilometers wide. The impact site, now known as the Chicxulub crater, is buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula and the Gulf of Mexico. It was discovered in the 1970s through geophysical surveys and later confirmed through drilling and analysis. The crater measures about 180 kilometers in diameter and is over 20 kilometers deep in places. The force of the impact was incomprehensible, instantly vaporizing the asteroid and a massive volume of Earth's crust, creating a fireball that spread across the continent. Molten rock was hurled into the atmosphere and rained back down as glowing debris. The shockwave flattened forests for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. Tsunamis hundreds of meters high swept across coastlines, and the dust and sulfur thrown into the atmosphere darkened the skies, cooling the planet and disrupting the climate for years. It was one of the most catastrophic events in Earth's history, and its effects were felt globally. Not all scientists agree on a single cause for the disappearance. While the asteroid impact is widely accepted as the primary cause of the mass-ending event, some scientists argue that other factors played a role. Massive volcanic eruptions in what is now India, known as the Deccan Traps, were releasing enormous amounts of lava and toxic gases around the same time as the asteroid impact. These eruptions could have contributed to climate change, acid rain, and atmospheric disruption. Sea levels were also changing, altering coastlines and habitats, and the climate was already in flux. Some researchers believe that dinosaurs were already in decline before the asteroid struck, weakened by environmental changes that made them more vulnerable. The truth is likely that the ending was a combination of factors, with the asteroid delivering the final, devastating blow to ecosystems already under stress. It was not a single event, but a perfect storm of disasters. Some dinosaurs survived. In a sense, they are still with us. Birds are the direct descendants of a group of small, feathered theropod dinosaurs. When the asteroid struck and the world changed, most dinosaur lineages vanished. But some small, adaptable species survived, perhaps because they could fly, find shelter, or subsist on seeds and insects when larger food sources disappeared. Over millions of years, these survivors diversified into the incredible variety of birds we see today. So, when you watch a sparrow, a hawk, or a penguin, you are looking at a living dinosaur. They carry the legacy of that ancient lineage, adapted and transformed, but still fundamentally connected to the creatures that once ruled the Earth. In this way, dinosaurs never truly went away. They simply evolved, adapted, and found new ways to thrive in a world that had changed beyond recognition. Dinosaur fossils have been discovered for centuries. Long before the term dinosaur was coined, people were finding large, mysterious bones. In ancient times, these bones were often interpreted as the remains of giants, dragons, or mythical beasts. In China, dinosaur fossils may have inspired legends of dragons. In Europe, large bones were sometimes displayed in churches or museums as relics of a time before the flood. The first scientific description of a dinosaur bone appeared in the 17th century, when a piece of what we now know was a Megalosaurus femur was found in England. At the time, scholars had no framework for understanding such remains. It wasn't until the 19th century, when more complete fossils were discovered and studied systematically, that scientists began to realize these were not mythical creatures, but real animals that had once lived and died. The history of dinosaur discovery is a story of gradual understanding, of puzzle pieces slowly coming together to reveal a lost world. The first scientifically described dinosaur was Megalosaurus. In 1824, William Buckland, a British geologist and paleontologist, published the first formal scientific description of a dinosaur. He named it Megalosaurus, meaning great lizard, based on fossil bones that had been found in England years earlier. At the time, the concept of dinosaurs did not yet exist. Buckland knew these bones belonged to a giant reptile, but he had no framework for understanding what kind of creature it might have been. His description was careful and methodical, establishing a foundation for the science of paleontology. It would be nearly 2 decades before Richard Owen coined the term dinosaur and recognized that these ancient reptiles formed a distinct group. But Megalosaurus holds the distinction of being first, the opening entry in humanity's catalogue of dinosaurs, a creature brought back from deep time through the patient work of science. Mary Ann Mantell may have discovered the second dinosaur, Iguanodon. The story, though sometimes disputed, tells that in 1822, Mary Ann Mantell, wife of geologist Gideon Mantell, found some unusual fossilized teeth in a pile of rocks in Sussex, England. The teeth were large, serrated, and unlike anything known from modern animals. Gideon Mantell studied them and noticed their resemblance to the teeth of modern iguanas, only much, much larger. In 1825, he published his findings, naming the creature Iguanodon, or iguana tooth. This was the second dinosaur to be formally described, coming just a year after Megalosaurus. Whether Mary Ann truly made the initial discovery, or whether Gideon found the fossils himself and later credited his wife, is unclear from historical records. But either way, Iguanodon entered the scientific literature, another piece of the puzzle slowly revealing that the ancient Earth had been home to creatures beyond imagination. The name dinosaur was not invented until 1842. For nearly 2 decades after the discoveries of Megalosaurus and Iguanodon, scientists struggled to understand what these giant fossil reptiles were. Some thought they were simply oversized versions of modern lizards or crocodiles. Others believed they were something more unique. It was Richard Owen, a brilliant and sometimes controversial British anatomist, who recognized that these creatures shared certain skeletal features that set them apart from all other known reptiles. In 1842, he grouped them together under a new name, Dinosauria, the terrible lizards. Owen's insight was groundbreaking. He realized that these were not merely large reptiles, but a distinct group with their own anatomical characteristics. His work laid the foundation for all future dinosaur studies, transforming scattered fossil discoveries into a coherent scientific field. Ancient cultures may have been inspired by dinosaur fossils. Long before modern science, people found large, mysterious bones emerging from the earth. Without the framework of paleontology, they interpreted these discoveries through the lens of mythology and legend. In ancient Greece, giant bones were sometimes attributed to heroes and gods from myth. In China, dragon bones, some of which were likely dinosaur fossils, were ground into powders and used in traditional medicine. Native American tribes in the western United States told stories of giant monsters and thunderbirds, possibly inspired by the enormous bones they encountered. Protoceratops fossils, found in the deserts of Central Asia, may have inspired the legend of the griffin, a creature with a beak and 4 legs. The bones fit the description remarkably well. These ancient peoples were not wrong to see something extraordinary in these fossils. They simply lacked the scientific tools to understand what they were truly seeing. Dinosaur footprints were first discovered in the 1800s. In the early 19th century, people in New England began noticing strange 3-toed impressions in rock formations. At the time, these were often interpreted as giant bird tracks, which, in a way, was not far from the truth. It wasn't until decades later that scientists realized these tracks had been made by dinosaurs. Fossil footprints, or trackways, provide a different kind of information than bones. They show how dinosaurs moved, how fast they traveled, and sometimes even how they interacted with one another. A trackway is a snapshot of behavior, a moment frozen in stone. Over the years, thousands of dinosaur trackways have been discovered on every continent. Some show herds moving together. Others reveal a lone predator stalking through ancient mud. These traces are windows into the daily lives of creatures that vanished millions of years ago. Some trackways suggest dinosaurs may have migrated. In several locations around the world, paleontologists have found long stretches of parallel trackways, where dozens or even hundreds of dinosaurs appear to have been traveling in the same direction at the same time. These megatrackways, as they are sometimes called, span dozens of kilometers, and suggest coordinated movement across great distances. One of the most famous is the Dinosaur Freeway in Colorado, a series of trackways along what was once the western shore of an ancient inland sea. The footprints show herbivorous dinosaurs moving north and south, possibly following seasonal patterns in search of food or nesting sites. Migration is common among modern animals, especially large herbivores. It makes sense that some dinosaurs, facing similar environmental pressures, would have done the same. These trackways are the closest thing we have to watching dinosaurs on the move, a silent parade preserved in stone. Dinosaurs left behind more than just bones and footprints. Paleontologists study what are called trace fossils, evidence of dinosaur activity that is not part of the body itself. These include footprints, but also other traces like nests, eggs, tooth marks, and even coprolites, fossilized droppings. Coprolites can reveal what a dinosaur ate, showing fragments of bone, plant material, or shells. Tooth marks on bones tell stories of predation or scavenging. Nests show how eggs were arranged and whether they were tended by parents. All of these traces add context to the bones, helping scientists reconstruct not just what dinosaurs looked like, but how they lived. A skeleton alone is a static thing, but when paired with trace fossils, it becomes part of a story, a life lived millions of years ago, with behaviors, struggles, and moments of care. We do not know exactly what dinosaurs sounded like. Sound does not fossilize. We have no recordings, no direct evidence of the calls, roars, or songs that dinosaurs may have made. But scientists can make educated guesses based on anatomy and the sounds made by modern relatives like birds and crocodiles. Some dinosaurs, like the duck-billed hadrosaurs, had elaborate crests on their heads. These crests were hollow, with long, twisting air passages inside. Scientists believe these passages could have been used to produce deep, resonant calls, something like a trombone or a foghorn. By creating computer models of the crest and simulating air flowing through it, researchers have recreated the possible sounds of Parasaurolophus. The result is a low, rumbling hum, a sound that could have traveled long distances across ancient landscapes. It's hauntingly beautiful, a voice from deep time brought back through science. Many dinosaurs may have made closed-mouth vocalizations. The popular image of a dinosaur roaring with its mouth wide open, like the Tyrannosaurus rex in movies, is probably not accurate. Recent studies suggest that many dinosaurs likely produced sounds with their mouths closed, similar to the booming calls of modern birds like cassowaries and emus, or the bellows of crocodiles. These closed-mouth vocalizations are created by inflating the throat or esophagus and pushing air through, producing deep, resonant sounds. This method is more common in large animals and would have been effective for dinosaurs communicating over long distances. The sounds would have been lower in pitch, more of a rumble or boom than a high-pitched roar. It changes the picture of the ancient world slightly. Instead of roaring monsters, imagine dinosaurs calling to each other with deep, percussive hoots that echoed through forests and across plains. Some dinosaurs may have used their tails to make sounds. Diplodocus and other long-tailed sauropods had tails that tapered to a thin, whip-like tip. Some scientists have suggested that these dinosaurs could flick their tails at high speed, creating a loud cracking sound, like a bullwhip. The idea is that the tip of the tail could move faster than the speed of sound, producing a sonic boom. Whether this actually happened is debated, but it's an intriguing possibility. Such a sound could have been used for communication, to warn others of danger, or to intimidate rivals or predators. Imagine standing on an ancient plain and hearing the sharp crack of a sauropod's tail echoing across the landscape, a sound that could be heard for kilometers. It would have been a powerful signal, one that left no doubt about the presence of these colossal creatures. Dinosaurs had different kinds of teeth for different diets. Teeth are some of the most common fossils because they are hard and durable, often surviving when other bones do not. And teeth can tell us a great deal about what a dinosaur ate. Carnivores like T-Rex had sharp, serrated teeth shaped like steak knives, perfect for tearing flesh. Herbivores had a wide variety of tooth shapes depending on what they ate. Sauropods had peg-like or spoon-shaped teeth for stripping leaves from branches. Hadrosaurs had hundreds of tiny teeth packed together in dental batteries, constantly replacing as they wore down, ideal for grinding tough plant material. Ceratopsians like Triceratops had shearing teeth that worked like scissors, slicing through fibrous vegetation. Each tooth shape is a clue, a piece of evidence that helps reconstruct the ecology of ancient worlds. Some dinosaurs had no teeth at all. Not all dinosaurs relied on teeth for feeding. Several groups evolved toothless beaks instead. These beaks were made of keratin, the same material as bird beaks and human fingernails, and were well suited for a variety of diets. Ornithomimids, the ostrich dinosaurs, had beaks and were probably omnivores, eating plants, insects, and small animals. Oviraptorids also had beaks, and their strong jaws suggest they may have crushed hard foods like seeds, nuts, or shellfish. Even some large theropods, like the bizarre Therizinosaurus, were toothless herbivores. These dinosaurs show that evolution found many solutions to the problem of gathering and processing food. Teeth are useful, but they are not essential. A strong beak can be just as effective and often more versatile. Dinosaurs constantly replaced their teeth throughout their lives. Unlike mammals, which grow 2 sets of teeth and then must make do for the rest of their lives, dinosaurs, like modern reptiles, continuously replace their teeth. Old, worn teeth would fall out, and new ones would grow in to take their place. This process happened throughout the dinosaur's life, ensuring that it always had functional teeth for feeding. In some dinosaurs, this replacement happened rapidly. Hadrosaurs, with their complex dental batteries, could have hundreds of teeth in their mouths at any given time, with new teeth constantly pushing up from below as old ones wore away. This system allowed them to process huge amounts of tough plant material without their teeth becoming ineffective. It's an elegant solution, one that served dinosaurs well for millions of years. Some dinosaurs had cheeks. This might seem like a small detail, but the presence or absence of cheeks is important. Cheeks are fleshy structures that help keep food in the mouth while chewing. Many herbivorous dinosaurs, especially ornithopods and ceratopsians, likely had cheeks. Fossil evidence for this comes from the structure of the jaw and the arrangement of the teeth. Without cheeks, food would constantly fall out of the mouth while chewing, making it difficult to process plant material efficiently. Birds, which are dinosaurs, do not have cheeks, but many of the non-avian herbivorous dinosaurs probably did. This small anatomical feature would have made a significant difference in their ability to feed, allowing them to chew thoroughly before swallowing, extracting more nutrients from tough vegetation. Dinosaurs had a variety of skin textures. While most people imagine dinosaurs with scaly skin, the reality was more varied. Fossilized skin impressions show that different dinosaurs had different skin textures. Some had small, pebbly scales. Others had larger, more pronounced scales, or even bony plates embedded in the skin. Some dinosaurs, particularly theropods, had feathers, which created an entirely different texture. A few fossils show evidence of quills or bristle-like structures. Skin texture likely varied across different parts of the body as well, just as it does in modern animals. The belly might be soft and smooth, while the back is armored with thicker scales. These variations reflect the different ecological niches dinosaurs occupied and the selective pressures they faced. Skin was not just a covering, it was an adaptation shaped by millions of years of evolution. Dinosaurs came in many colors. For a long time, dinosaurs were depicted in dull grays, browns, and greens, colors chosen arbitrarily by artists. But thanks to the discovery of melanosomes in fossilized feathers, we now know that some dinosaurs were brightly colored. Anchiornis, for example, was black and white with a reddish crest. Microraptor had glossy, iridescent black feathers. Sinosauropteryx had a striped tail. These colors likely served multiple purposes. Bright colors could have been used in courtship displays, helping to attract mates. Patterns like stripes or spots could have provided camouflage, breaking up the outline of the animal and making it harder for predators or prey to see. Colors could also have signaled health, fitness, or social status. The ancient world was not monochrome. It was vibrant, full of color and pattern, just like the natural world today. Some dinosaurs had display structures for attracting mates. Many dinosaurs evolved elaborate features that seem to have had no practical use in survival, but were likely important in reproduction. Male Pachycephalosaurus may have used their thick skulls in headbutting contests to impress females. The frills and horns of ceratopsians like Triceratops may have been used in display, showing off size and strength. Theropod dinosaurs like Oviraptor had feathered crests and ornate plumage that could have been fanned out during courtship. These display structures are examples of sexual selection, where traits evolve not because they help an animal survive, but because they help it reproduce. A peacock's tail is a classic example. It's cumbersome and makes the bird more visible to predators, but females prefer males with larger, more colorful tails. The same principle likely applied to many dinosaurs. Evolution shapes not just the ability to survive, but the ability to attract a mate and pass on genes. Dinosaurs may have performed courtship dances. In 2016, paleontologists described what they called a dinosaur dance floor in Colorado. The site, dating to about 100 million years ago, contains dozens of large scrapes in the ground, each about 2 meters long. These scrapes are remarkably similar to the courtship displays of modern birds, where males scratch and clear the ground to create display areas, then perform dances to attract females. The scrapes were likely made by large theropod dinosaurs, possibly related to Acrocanthosaurus. If this interpretation is correct, it means these dinosaurs engaged in complex courtship behaviors, clearing display areas, and perhaps dancing, calling, or showing off their plumage. It's a rare glimpse into the social and reproductive lives of dinosaurs, behaviors that are usually impossible to detect from bones alone. Some dinosaurs cared for their eggs until they hatched. In Mongolia, paleontologists have found fossils of Oviraptor sitting on nests of eggs in a brooding posture, with their arms spread over the eggs and their legs tucked beneath them. This is the same posture modern birds use when incubating eggs. Some of these fossils show adult oviraptors that were buried suddenly, perhaps by sandstorms, while sitting on their nests. They died protecting their eggs. This discovery provides direct evidence of parental care in dinosaurs. Incubating eggs requires dedication. The parent must remain on the nest for extended periods, keeping the eggs warm and protected. It's a behavior that requires investment, time, and energy. The fact that some dinosaurs did this shows they were not cold, indifferent reptiles. but attentive parents, at least during the critical early stages of reproduction. Some young dinosaurs may have formed groups for protection. Fossil sites occasionally show clusters of juvenile dinosaurs from the same species, with no adults nearby. These groups, sometimes called schools, suggest that young dinosaurs may have banded together after leaving the nest, much like young fish or birds do today. Staying in a group offers protection. Many eyes are better than two at spotting predators, and a group can confuse or overwhelm a predator through sheer numbers. This behavior may have been especially important for species whose parents did not provide extended care. Once the juveniles hatched and left the nest, they were on their own. Forming groups would have increased their chances of survival during this vulnerable period. It's a strategy that has worked for countless species throughout evolutionary history. Some dinosaur species show evidence of sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism is when males and females of the same species look different from each other. In many modern animals, males are larger, more colorful, or have elaborate ornaments. Scientists have found evidence of sexual dimorphism in some dinosaur species. For example, some specimens of Tyrannosaurus rex are more robust, with thicker bones, while others are more gracile, with lighter builds. It's possible that these represent males and females, though which is still debated. Some ceratopsian fossils show variation in the size and shape of frills and horns, which could also be sexual dimorphism. Identifying sex in dinosaurs is difficult because soft tissues, which often differ between males and females, are rarely preserved. But when patterns emerge across multiple specimens, they hint at the diversity that existed within species, not just between them. Dinosaurs grew at different rates throughout their lives. By studying growth rings in dinosaur bones, paleontologists can track how individuals grew over time. Many dinosaurs experienced rapid growth during their teenage years, a growth spurt similar to what humans experience. During this period, they could gain hundreds of kilograms per year. After reaching adult size, growth slowed dramatically or stopped altogether. This pattern suggests that dinosaurs had determinate growth, meaning they stopped growing once they reached a certain size, unlike many modern reptiles which continue growing throughout their lives. The growth rings also reveal periods of slower growth, possibly corresponding to seasons or years when food was scarce. Each bone is a record, a diary written in layers of calcium, telling the story of a life lived long ago. Some dinosaurs lived in harsh environments. While we often imagine dinosaurs in lush, tropical settings, they inhabited a wide range of environments, including some that were quite harsh. In what is now Alaska and northern Canada, dinosaurs lived in regions that experience freezing winters and months of darkness. Fossils from these areas include both herbivores and carnivores, suggesting complete ecosystems existed in polar regions. How did they survive? Some may have migrated south for the winter, returning in the spring when food was abundant. Others may have been year-round residents, adapted to the cold with insulation like feathers or fat layers, and perhaps even a form of hibernation or dormancy during the worst months. The discovery of polar dinosaurs challenges the idea that they were strictly warm-weather animals. Life, as always, finds a way to adapt. Dinosaurs lived through dramatic climate changes. The Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs, spanned over 180 million years, and during that time, the climate changed many times. There were periods of intense heat, when the poles were ice-free and tropical forests stretched into high latitudes. There were also cooler periods when temperatures dropped and ice began to form at the poles. Sea levels rose and fell. Continents shifted. Volcanic eruptions released ash and gases that altered the atmosphere. Through all of this, dinosaurs adapted. Some species went inactive. Others evolved to take their place. The ability to adapt to changing conditions was one of the reasons dinosaurs were so successful for so long. They were not a static group, frozen in time, but a dynamic, evolving collection of species responding to an ever-changing world. Volcanic activity may have stressed dinosaur populations before the asteroid. Around the time of the ending event 66 million years ago, massive volcanic eruptions were occurring in what is now India, a region known as the Deccan Traps. These eruptions released enormous quantities of lava, ash, and gases into the atmosphere over hundreds of thousands of years. The gases, particularly sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, could have caused acid rain, altered the climate, and disrupted ecosystems. Some scientists believe that these eruptions had already begun to stress dinosaur populations, making them more vulnerable when the asteroid struck. Others argue that volcanic activity was a normal part of Earth's processes, and that dinosaurs were coping with it just fine. The debate continues, but it seems likely that the ending was not caused by a single factor. It was a combination of stresses, with the asteroid delivering the final, catastrophic blow. The asteroid impact caused immediate and long-term effects. The moment the asteroid struck, the energy released was staggering. The impact vaporized rock, created a massive fireball, and sent shockwaves rippling across the planet. Tsunamis hundreds of meters high swept coastlines. Wildfires ignited by falling debris spread across continents. But the immediate destruction, as terrible as it was only the beginning. Dust and soot thrown into the atmosphere blocked sunlight for months, possibly years. Without sunlight, photosynthesis stopped. Plants withered and passed. Herbivores starved. Carnivores followed. The food chain collapsed from the bottom up. Temperatures plummeted in what is known as an impact winter. Acid rain fell, poisoning lakes and rivers. The world that emerged from this catastrophe was fundamentally different from the one that existed before. It was a reset, a moment when the rules of survival changed completely. Not all large animals went inactive at the end of the Cretaceous. The ending event was selective. It wiped out all non-avian dinosaurs, but many other groups survived. Crocodiles and alligators made it through. Turtles survived. Lizards and snakes continued. Mammals, though many species passed, endured as a group and eventually flourished in the aftermath. Amphibians, despite being sensitive to environmental changes, survived. Why did some groups make it while dinosaurs did not? Size may have been a factor. Smaller animals require less food and can survive on limited resources. Habitat also mattered. Animals that lived in water or could burrow underground may have been sheltered from the worst effects. Dietary flexibility helped as well. Omnivores and scavengers had more options than specialists. The survivors were not necessarily the strongest or fastest. They were the most adaptable, the ones who could endure when the world turned hostile. Birds survived because they were small, adaptable, and could fly. When the asteroid struck, most dinosaur lineages vanished, but one small branch survived: the birds. These were small, feathered theropods, already well adapted for flight. Their small size meant they needed less food. Their ability to fly allowed them to travel long distances in search of resources. Some may have fed on seeds, which can remain viable in the soil for years, providing a stable food source when other options disappeared. Over the millions of years that followed, birds diversified into thousands of species, filling ecological niches left empty by the disappearance of other dinosaurs. They became the songbirds, raptors, waterfowl, and flightless giants we see today. In a very real sense, dinosaurs never went away. They adapted, evolved, and persisted. Every time you see a bird, you are seeing a dinosaur, a living connection to an ancient lineage. The recovery after the ending took millions of years. The world immediately after the asteroid impact was a desolate place. But life is resilient. Within a few thousand years, plants began to return, first simple ferns, and then more complex vegetation. Insects survived and started to repopulate. Small mammals, no longer living in the shadow of giant reptiles, began to diversify. Over millions of years, new ecosystems took shape. Mammals grew larger, filling the roles once occupied by dinosaurs. Birds spread into every available habitat. The recovery was slow, but it was steady. The Paleogene period, which followed the Cretaceous, was a time of experimentation and innovation. New forms appeared, tried different strategies, succeeded or failed. Evolution never stops. It simply adapts to new conditions, finding new ways for life to persist. Paleontologists use many techniques to study dinosaurs. Discovering and studying dinosaur fossils is painstaking work. It begins with fieldwork, searching for fossils in rock formations known to be the right age. Once a fossil is found, it must be carefully excavated, often taking weeks or months to remove a single skeleton from the rock. Back in the laboratory, fossils are cleaned, prepared, and studied. Paleontologists use a variety of tools. Microscopes reveal details invisible to the naked eye. CT scans allow scientists to see inside fossils without damaging them, revealing internal structures like brain cavities, air passages, and bone growth patterns. Chemical analysis can determine what a dinosaur ate or what the climate was like when it lived. Computer modeling helps reconstruct how dinosaurs moved, how their muscles attached, and even what they sounded like. Each new technique opens a new window into the past, revealing details that would have been impossible to discover just a few decades ago. Fossilization is a rare process. For every animal that becomes a fossil, millions pass without leaving a trace. Fossilization requires a specific set of conditions. The animal must be buried quickly, usually in water or sediment, before scavengers can destroy the body. Over time, minerals seep into the bones, replacing the organic material and turning them to stone. This process takes thousands or millions of years. Most animals do not die in conditions that allow fossilization. They are eaten, scattered, or decay completely. This means that the fossil record is incomplete, a small sampling of the diversity that once existed. But even this incomplete record is astonishingly rich, revealing thousands of species and countless details about ancient life. Every fossil is a small miracle, a voice from deep time speaking to us across the ages. New dinosaur species are discovered every year. Paleontology is an active, vibrant field. Every year, researchers describe new species based on newly discovered fossils. Some are found in remote deserts or mountainous regions. Others come from museum collections, specimens that were collected decades ago but only recently studied in detail. Each new species adds to our understanding of dinosaur diversity. Some are close relatives of known dinosaurs, filling in gaps in the family tree. Others are completely unexpected, with features that challenge existing ideas about how dinosaurs evolved. As technology improves and more of the world is explored, the pace of discovery continues. There are likely thousands more dinosaur species waiting to be found, buried in rock formations that have not yet been explored. The story of dinosaurs is far from complete. It is still being written, one fossil at a time. China has yielded some of the most important dinosaur discoveries. Over the past few decades, China has become one of the most productive regions for dinosaur fossils. The Liaoning province, in particular, has produced exquisitely preserved fossils from the early Cretaceous, about 125 million years ago. These fossils often include soft tissues like feathers, skin, and even stomach contents, preserved in fine-grained volcanic ash. Discoveries from China have transformed our understanding of dinosaurs. They provided the first direct evidence that many dinosaurs had feathers. They revealed the colors of dinosaur feathers through preserved melanosomes. They showed the diversity of early birds and their close relationship to non-avian dinosaurs. Sites like the Yixian Formation are windows into ancient ecosystems, preserving not just dinosaurs, but also plants, insects, fish, and mammals. These fossils tell complete stories, capturing moments from the daily lives of creatures that lived long ago. Some dinosaur fossils are remarkably complete. Most dinosaur fossils are fragmentary, just a few bones or a partial skeleton. But occasionally, paleontologists discover fossils that are nearly complete, with almost every bone preserved in place. These finds are treasures. They allow scientists to study the entire anatomy of the animal, understanding how different parts of the body relate to each other. Some fossils are preserved in lifelike poses, as if the animal simply lay down and turned to stone. Others show signs of struggle or rapid burial. A few even preserve the animal's last meal in its stomach. Complete fossils are rare because so many things must go right for them to form. But when they are found, they provide a level of detail that fragmentary fossils cannot match. They turn abstract reconstructions into concrete reality. Dinosaur fossils have been found in unexpected places. While many fossils are found in remote wilderness areas, others turn up in surprising locations. Construction sites have revealed dinosaur bones. Quarries, where rock is mined for building materials, sometimes uncover fossils. Farmers have found bones in their fields. In 2011, a construction worker in Canada accidentally uncovered one of the best preserved dinosaur fossils ever found. A nodosaur with skin, armor, and even the contents of its stomach intact. It was being excavated for a museum, and now provides unprecedented detail about this armored dinosaur. These accidental discoveries remind us that the past is all around us, buried just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Sometimes, the most important finds come not from planned expeditions, but from a chance encounter, a moment when the Earth reveals its secrets. Not all fossils are in museums. Many important fossils remain in private collections or are held by universities and research institutions around the world. Some are on display for the public, part of exhibits that educate and inspire. Others are kept in storage, carefully preserved for future study. There are also fossils that remain in the ground, known but not yet excavated, because the resources or expertise are not available. The work of cataloguing, studying, and preserving fossils is ongoing. Each fossil is a piece of evidence, a data point in the larger story of life on Earth. Museums and research institutions play a crucial role in this work, ensuring that fossils are protected and available for study. They are not just repositories of old bones. They are archives of deep time, places where the past is preserved for the future. Dinosaur paleontology is a collaborative science. No single person discovers a dinosaur alone. It takes teams of people working together. Fieldwork involves geologists, paleontologists, volunteers, and local guides. Laboratory work requires preparators who clean and stabilize fossils, technicians who operate equipment, and researchers who analyze data. Describing a new species often involves multiple specialists, each contributing expertise in anatomy, geology, or evolutionary biology. International collaboration is also common, with scientists from different countries sharing discoveries and insights. This collaborative nature enriches the science, bringing together diverse perspectives and skills. It also means that the story of dinosaurs is a shared human endeavor, a quest to understand our planet's history that transcends borders and brings people together in pursuit of knowledge. Dinosaur fossils inspire awe and curiosity. There is something profoundly moving about standing in front of a dinosaur skeleton. These creatures were real. They walked on the same planet we inhabit today. They experienced sunrises and storms, hunger and fear, the struggle to survive and the drive to reproduce. And then they were gone, swept away by forces beyond their control. But they left traces, fragments of bone and stone that allow us to glimpse their world. For children, dinosaurs often spark a lifelong love of science. For adults, they remind us of the vastness of time and the impermanence of all things. They connect us to a past that is unimaginably distant, yet strangely familiar. Life then, as now, faced challenges, adapted and persisted. The story of dinosaurs is the story of life itself, written in stone and waiting to be read. Dinosaur research continues to evolve. What we know about dinosaurs today is vastly different from what was known even a few decades ago. New discoveries and new technologies continually reshape our understanding. Dinosaurs were once thought to be slow, cold-blooded reptiles. Now we know many were active, warm-blooded, and covered in feathers. We once imagined them in dull colors. Now we can see them in iridescent blacks, rusty reds, and striking patterns. We thought they were solitary. Now we know many were social, living in herds and caring for their young. As research continues, more surprises await. There are questions still unanswered. How intelligent were they? How did they communicate? What were their lifespans? Each new fossil, each new analysis, brings us closer to understanding these magnificent creatures. The work is slow, methodical, and requires patience. But it is also deeply rewarding, a journey into deep time that reveals the wonders of the ancient world. Dinosaurs remind us of the power of evolution. For over 150 million years, dinosaurs adapted, diversified, and thrived. They evolved into an astonishing variety of forms, from tiny insect eaters to colossal herbivores, from swift predators to armored tanks. They conquered land, some took to the air, and a few even ventured into water. They spread across every continent, inhabiting deserts, forests, plains, and polar regions. They were one of the most successful groups of animals ever to exist. And yet, they were not invincible. When conditions changed dramatically, most could not adapt quickly enough. But their descendants, the birds, did survive and continue to thrive today. The story of dinosaurs is a testament to the power of evolution to create incredible diversity, and also a reminder of the fragility of life in the face of catastrophic change. It is a story of both triumph and vulnerability, played out over unimaginable spans of time. Every fossil tells a story. A single dinosaur bone, weathered and broken, is not just a piece of rock. It is a connection to a living creature that walked the earth millions of years ago. It represents a moment in time, a life that began, grew, struggled, and ended. Around that bone lies a larger story, the environment where the dinosaur lived, the other creatures it encountered, the plants it ate, or the prey it hunted. The rock layers that contain the fossil tell us about the climate, the geography, the passage of time. When paleontologists study a fossil, they are reading these layers, piecing together fragments of evidence to reconstruct a world that no longer exists. It is detective work on a geological scale, requiring patience, creativity, and scientific rigor. And the reward is a glimpse into the past, a story that adds another thread to the vast cloth of life's history on Earth. Dinosaurs are part of our shared heritage. They belong to no single nation or culture. They are part of the history of our planet, and therefore part of all of our stories. Fossils found in Mongolia, Argentina, China, Canada, and every other corner of the world contribute to a global understanding of ancient life. Museums around the world display dinosaur skeletons, making them accessible to millions of people. Books, films, and educational programs bring dinosaurs into homes and classrooms everywhere. This shared fascination transcends language and borders. Children in every country grow up learning about Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops, and Stegosaurus. Scientists from different nations collaborate on research, sharing discoveries and insights. Dinosaurs remind us that we all share a planet with a deep, rich history, and that understanding that history is a collective human endeavor. They are a heritage we all inherit, a window into our planet's past that belongs to everyone. The study of dinosaurs enriches our understanding of life. Dinosaurs are not just interesting for their own sake. Studying them helps us understand fundamental principles of biology, evolution, and ecology. How do animals adapt to changing environments? How does evolution shape body plans to solve different problems? What causes mass disappearances, and what allows some groups to survive while others perish? These are not just questions about the past. They have implications for the present and future. By understanding how ecosystems responded to past climate changes, we gain insights into how modern ecosystems might respond to current changes. By studying the success and eventual disappearance of dinosaurs, we learn about resilience, adaptation, and the delicate balance that sustains life. Paleontology is not just about looking backward. It is about understanding the processes that shape life, processes that are still at work today. And now, as our journey through the world of dinosaurs comes to a close, let these ancient creatures settle gently in your thoughts. Imagine them not as distant, abstract beings, but as real animals, living and breathing under the same sun that warms us today, walking on ground that has since turned to stone, leaving behind traces that whisper their stories across millions of years. They were parents protecting their nests. They were young ones huddling together for safety. They were giants moving slowly through forests, their footsteps shaking the earth. They were swift hunters darting through underbrush, feathers catching the light. They called to one another with deep rumbles and soft coos. They migrated across vast distances, following the seasons, searching for food and safe places to raise their young. They adapted to jungles and deserts, to warmth and cold, to abundance and scarcity. For 150 million years, they thrived. And then, in a moment that was both catastrophic and transformative, their world changed. But even in disappearance, they left a legacy. Their bones tell stories. Their footprints mark ancient paths. Their descendants still sing in the trees and soar through the skies. They remind us that life is both fragile and resilient, that endings are also beginnings, and that the earth has witnessed transformations beyond our imagining. You have traveled far tonight, through time and stone, through forests that no longer exist and skies long gone quiet. You have walked beside creatures that were once as real as you are now, and you have seen, through the patient work of science, what they looked like, how they lived, and how they vanished. It is a gift, this knowledge, a bridge across deep time. And now it is time to rest. Let the weight of the day dissolve. Let your breathing deepen and slow. Let your mind release its grip on the hours behind you and the tasks ahead. Dinosaurs have had their time. The earth has turned through ages uncountable. And now, in this quiet moment, it is your turn simply to be still. You have done enough for today. The world will continue its turning without you for a while. Close your eyes, let go, and dream, if you dream at all, of ancient skies and distant thunder, of creatures vast and small, of a world that was and a world that is, and the quiet thread that connects them all. Good night.